All right. Aaron, do you want to kick us off with a few opening words?
Yes, thank you. So hello, everyone, and welcome to this AMA hosted by Deep Tech Showcase. We have the pleasure of having Ellen Simonoff, the Small Business Director at the Office of Naval Research, who will give a short presentation about her organization, and afterwards we'll have a short session of Q&A, some questions that we prepared, and also we'll be very happy to, for any question that you have, if you have any questions, please post them on the Q&A session. It will be easier for us afterwards to answer as many as we can. We'll also try to answer questions as possible during the webinar itself online. So yes, good luck. A few words on Eagle Point Deep Tech Showcase and myself. My name is Aran Harpaz. I'm the VP of Consulting Services at Eagle Point Funding. Asher, who is hosting the webinar with us, is from Deep Tech Showcase, which is another branch of Eagle Point Funding, focusing on business development and assisting companies, to overcome the value of death of startups. And Eagle Point Funding is focusing on grants and non-dilutive funding to help companies, startups, and high-tech companies to receive grants and funding to help them finalize and advance their capabilities on the research and development sector. So you're more than welcome to contact us, either Asher or me. My email is eran@eaglepointfunding.com. Eran is E-R-A-N. And Asher is asher@deeptechshowcase.com. And we'll be more than happy to afterwards touch base and talk to you and help you in any way. So Ellen, thank you for joining us. The floor is yours for the beginning of this webinar. You're muted, Ellen, if you're trying to talk.
I'm sorry. I had trouble getting the cursor moving from one screen to the other. And thank you for the return and invite. My name is Ellen Simonoff. I'm with the Office of Naval Research. We are the naval buying activity that is responsible for science and technology, research and development. My email address is at the bottom of the slide. If you like my presentation or you're just interested in hearing more about ONR and our other activities, Naval X, U.S. Naval Research Laboratory, ONR Global, just please reach out to me and we can get you on our small business distribution list. The next few slides we're going to go over very quickly. Pretty slides made for the Chief of Naval Research, which I have borrowed from him. And I just want to give you a sense of what we're about from a very high level. Next slide, because you can read as well as I can. Next slide. Next slide. So ONR was founded in 1946, and this is what our mission is still about: to plan, foster, encourage scientific research. As a Navy command that has that responsibility, we're involved with issuing grants, though the grants mostly go to universities and nonprofits. We issue contracts. Those mostly go to companies. And now I'm lost. Okay, you went on to the next slide. I guess it was time to move on. But we also are involved in OTs, the contracting officer or agreements officer, along with the program officer, determine what type of vehicle is appropriate for investing in your research area. So the Naval Research Enterprise is ONRG, headquarters in London, but all around the world. We also have Naval Research Laboratory and Naval X. These are all subcommands of ONR. So if you're interested in something that they are doing, I can get you in touch with the right person. Next slide. For those of you that are used to working with DoD funds research based on the type of research it is, and this chart gives you a sense of how much of that is in the 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, and 6.4 area for the Office of Naval Research. Next slide. So now I want to go a little bit more in depth about our portfolio in terms of we have five departments, and then I have a slide for each of the department that gives you a better idea of what sort of research investment is occurring in each department. Next slide. So this is our department, or code 31, responsible for C5I SR. And these are the different areas that fall within their expertise. Next slide. Here we have our Department 32, which is Ocean Battle Space Sensing. And here are the areas that fall within there. If this overview is going too quickly, you can always contact me and I can help you navigate within each of the department's websites to see if we can find a match between your company's capabilities and what the program officers in each of these departments are investing in. Next, let's do code 33. The slide a little bit less busy in terms of what they are investing in. Next slide for code 34. This is our folks that are conducting warfighter performance. And we also have a human research protection program that is part of them. But those are the basic areas that they're involved in. And code 35, these are much larger systems that the Naval Air Warfare and Weapons Department is involved in. The tendency there is to invest with larger companies, but that doesn't rule out smaller company investment, but those are their areas. Next slide, we have the ONR organizational chart. So about 2/3 down, you have the different departments and who the department heads along with their MILDEPs are. And then the rest of us is really about supporting those organizations. But below that, you have on the purple, again, the different departments, the different organizations that are sub areas within the Office of Naval Research. Next slide. I break out our contracts into two parts. I think most of you here today are interested in science and technology contracts. So we let what's called a long-range broad agency announcement each year. And then we also have a link on our website to what I call the research portfolio. It's kind of an A to Z listing to help you match up your company's capabilities with the areas that our ONR program officers are subject matter experts in and are interested in funding. As well, let me go back just for about 15 seconds. For our support service contracts, that's if you're not a science and technology company. We buy support services that are mostly small business set-asides to augment and help our program officers run their programs. And then we also have a long-range acquisition estimate also posted. Next. The top of the slide provides for this fiscal year the NAICS codes for the areas that we're investing in. So already $1 billion have been spent this year in research and development and the physical engineering and life services. And you can see from that 1 billion, it sharply goes down because that is what we are about. On the bottom half of the chart shows the investments in small businesses, meaning that small businesses won prime contracts. This doesn't include the OTs and the grants. Next slide. So here's just some samples of some of our small business S&T awards in fiscal year 24. We are serious about awarding contracts in S&T to small businesses. Next slide. A lot of folks are usually curious about how we do in terms of our small business goals. So on the top chart, you have our circles for FY23, and small print is what the goal was and what our percentages were. Again, these are only small businesses that are prime contractors, doesn't include the grants and OTs. That just these are put together for the Small Business Administration, and that's all they're interested in capturing for this. The bottom set of circles is how we were doing as of 27 August of this fiscal year. Next chart. I am done. Well, I'm not done, but that's the end of my presentation. And if you want to start off with the Q&A part, which hopefully will be more interesting.
Thank you very much. It was interesting. So first of all, I encourage everyone also to post your questions on the Q&A so that we can answer them and address all the concerns or questions or interest points that you have. So the first question that I have, if you can tell us a little bit more about your background, how you got to your current position, and also a little bit more about your current role and what you're actually doing within the ONR.
Okay. So I have a 35-year career, so I'm not a youngster. Most of that career has been spent in contracting. I have a bachelor in commerce from the University of Virginia and the Office of Naval Research. We are located in Arlington, Virginia. My first job was with private industry for a very, very small firm called Washington Researchers. But that was excellent experience for what I'm doing now in terms of working with a small business. My government career has mostly been with the Navy. I've worked for Naval Air Systems Command, direct reporting program manager for the Advanced Amphibious Assault Vehicle, where I received some experience in a Marine Corps program office. I've worked for Marine Corps Systems Command. I've worked for the Defense Information Systems Agency, Marine Corps Installation and Logistics, and Department of Energy. So I moved around a lot at the start of my career, but I've now been with the Office of Naval Research for 15 years, a dozen years in contracting and grants, and 3 years now as a small business director. My responsibilities, as the small business director, I am the advocate for overall small business within the Office of Naval Research. I review what's called small business coordination records to ensure that if something should be set aside for small business, it is. I review large prime companies, their subcontracting plans to ensure that sufficient or what's realistic amount of that work goes to small business. I help the contracting officers and the program officers learn about small businesses and how to utilize them at ONR. I also have a deputy that's located at Naval Research Laboratory, and he handles the Naval Research Laboratory side of small business. And I'm also separate from the SBIR STTR program within the Navy and the Office of Naval Research. We have separate program managers for that.
Okay. Can you explain a little bit about the Navy SBIR program and how it differs from other programs, from other agencies or other branches of the military?
Okay. So the SBIR and STTR, that's a sister program to the SBIR. But a component of that is that there's collaboration with universities. And all large agencies or commands, such as ONR, that spend more than $100 million in a given year have a tax in terms of R&D spending, and that tax goes to the SBIR, STTR programs. As I'm not the SBIR program manager, all I remember is that tax is probably about 3-4% of our obligations. So that's how they gain their budget. And then they have the program for SBIR, where they're utilizing those funds to come up with requirements that are appropriate for in our case, ONR, in terms of areas that we are working in and are interested in building companies to receive, to conduct the research and build towards commercialization. The Navy SBIR program has an important component that is different than the other SBIR programs that you would come across. And that is the SBIR Transition Program, also called STP. And that program has money to assist or I should say the Navy SBIR contractors in transitioning their technologies through collaboration, education, market research. They actually do in-depth market research reports for your technology, mentoring, which they then conduct one-on-one coaching from experienced business consultants, connections, and promotion. The other deal, this is a unique program to the Navy. And I believe, and I think the SBIR program would tell you, that's why the Navy's SBIR program is successful in terms of getting companies to phase 3 commercialization, where the Navy program officers, when you get to phase 3, they're funding the SBIR effort above the tax that I spoke about. And gosh, ONR, SBIR this year, whereas we're currently we've obligated $1.6 billion, already $200 million has been spent on SBIR, STTR, which to me means that we're going beyond the tax in terms of having our programs fund phase 3 programs.
Okay.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, yes, it does. What are the ONR's future goals for expanding the involvement of SBIRs in Navy R&D projects? You showed before in a slide that, or you mentioned also that, I don't know if most of the funds, but a lot of the fund goes for large businesses in academia, in grants. How does it go in contract? And what is there a focus in advancing small businesses, or how does it work on that end, if that makes sense, the question?
Okay, of all the Navy commands, ONR is the largest, has the largest percentage of prime contracts going to small businesses. In one of my charts, I showed a circle where 50% of our prime contracts are going to small business. None of the other Navy activities are close at that. So even though Code 35, the department that does large systems development, uses a lot of large companies, a lot of the other departments are using a lot of small companies for the R&D. Our process for selecting companies is a broad agency announcement procedure, which is actually full and open. We're not allowed to set that aside for small businesses. However, as you know, a lot of small companies contribute to technology, and our ONR subject matter experts, called our program officers, they're selecting an awful lot of small businesses for those prime contracts to get us up to that 50% prime dollars being spent with small business.
Is that a goal to support small businesses, or is it because you mentioned that there's no set aside in the FOAs and in the other BAAs, but is there a goal? But still, 50% of the budget goes for small businesses. So is that a goal that was set by the ONR, or is that I wouldn't call it a coincidence, but something that just happened and is not intended for in a way?
We negotiate with the Department of Navy every year a small business goal. This year, that goal is 44% of all prime contracting dollars.
Mhm.
For the last 4 years, we have beaten that goal, but it's a goal.
Mhm.
So every major buying command within the Navy has a goal. ONR's is the largest for small business, and I don't think any of the other commands are close to beating their small business goal by 5-6%.
That's good to know. How I think you mentioned that, but can you also can you mention that again? The way that the ONR supports small businesses in navigating the complexities of the defense procurement processes.
Okay,
Particularly.
that's pretty much my job at ONR.
Mhm.
It is complex. If a company is very new, I might suggest that they do some work with the Small Business Administration or an Apex accelerator to help understand the lay of the land for DoD. If they're concentrating on ONR because of what's in our research portfolio, then I'm talking to those companies about what the BAA process is and how to connect with our ONR program officers that are actually doing the source selection in terms of choosing a particular, I mean, they're responsible for a technology portfolio, but they're also, I mean, their job is to find the right companies to invest in. So how do you get in front of an ONR program officer? I call it wowing the program officer, how to submit a white paper, and to follow that up with a proposal, assuming the ONR program officer is interested in funding you. We don't want companies submitting proposals for something that we're not interested in funding, because the process of submitting proposals is expensive.
Mhm.
And we understand that. So we start off small in terms of how can you get the interest of our program officers for what you're doing. And they have lots of reasons for wanting to fund things and reasons for not wanting to fund things. If they've been funding something similar for the last 10 years, they may not be interested in investing right now in a particular company's technology because of that. It's kind of been there, done that. What do you have that's new and different that is worth me taking a chance with you? And then I
And
also
is
mentioned
this,
we also have the grants.
sorry,
Yes.
yeah, and is this screening of the pre-applications or the white papers or the pre-proposals, are these done by the program managers, by the technical point of contact, or by representative from the agents, from the units, or the branches that are funding or soliciting the opportunity? Who does that pre-selection? Let's go.
Essentially, the program officer. That is the
Okay.
subject matter expert. Some agencies will use a panel.
Mhm.
We use a process within ONR where that program officer is the main focal point, and for those
And
selections.
and is there a way, you mentioned that, but companies before submitting, before even doing the white paper, they can contact this program manager to get some more information and clarity, or should they do that?
Yes, they should. And I would call it clarity. What they're not
Mhm.
interested in hearing from small businesses is, I read your research portfolio and I want to know specifically what you want me to do for them. Instead, they want to hear from you, from the small companies, in terms of what you can do for us. Tell us what your unique capability is and how it matches up to that particular subject in our research portfolio.
Mhm.
And those are essentially one pagers that go pretty far in depth in terms of the problem that or the challenge that they're trying to solve and are interested in funding.
Mhm. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Is there any collaboration between ONR and other branches of the military to foster innovation and technology sharing? If there is an interesting technology that you found or you're finding out about, are you sending information or messages to your counterparts at different branches? or vice versa?
So I'm not a technology expert. I mean, I'm familiar with the names of the ONR technologies, but I don't go in depth and I don't pretend that I have that expertise. So
Mhm.
what I'm trying to do is match up companies with the ONR program officers now, and their responsibility then extends not only to ONR, but to what are other government agencies doing, because there's a lot of collaboration that happens there. And in fact, when you get to the point of submitting a proposal or even having a discussion with a program officer, they will probably ask the company, who else, what other agencies are you working with?
Mhm.
And a lot of times that is helpful to the program officer because, oh, if you're working with this agency, is this your point of contact? Are they funding you? Is there something I might want to send my funds to an already existing contract? Or there's some similarities there. I mean, that's all can be part of the discussion. It's not like a normal RFP, request for proposal process, where there is no conversation. Conversation is encouraged in our process.
Mhm. How do you see the ONR engaging with new tech in the future? Is it more of the same, or do you see changes in the way that you're intaking or supporting the development in the future?
I would say we're going to continue doing what we're currently doing. We're
Mhm.
pursuing technology through our BAA process, the SBIR program. Last year, we started doing commercial solution openings. Again, our contracting officer and the program officer will be discuss with the contractor what the best instrument is to fit the requirement within the type of money he has, because that 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4, etc. There are limitations there, and all of this goes into the recipe of this sort of deciding then whether it's a contract grant, OT, or cooperative agreement. We're also working with our partners, NRL, ONRG, and Naval X.
Mhm. What advice would you give to small businesses to increase their chance of success in the ONR initiatives? If you need to choose two or three, these are the main things you should do to do to improve your chance of success. What would you say?
The biggest thing I see, I guess this is a negative, is a lot of companies don't follow the directions in the government announcement.
Mhm.
It's very important to follow the directions, to ask questions if you don't understand something. Never assume, be patient, resilient, and always put your best foot forward.
Okay. So basically, it's read the instructions and ask us questions. That's the main things that you think will improve the chances.
Well, a lot of companies think they're entitled, and there may be a lot of other companies in that same area that you're actually competing for. And government contracting can be strict where you can get thrown out if you don't follow the instructions.
Yeah.
So follow the instructions. If you're not sure an instruction, ask. Government contracting officers and program managers, they have an obligation to help you understand the requirements.
Okay. And last question that I have before we move on to the questions from the crowd. What are your technical, or what are the ONR's technological priorities for funding in 25 and 26 for the next fiscal year? Were they already set? Or how does it work?
Okay, so a lot of the funding for the contracts or new requirements that will be awarded in 2025 are probably already set, or for the most part. And that's because within DoD, if you don't spend your money, you lose it. So the program office has a plan as to how they're going to spend their funds. Of course, if the next great thing comes along, they'll probably deviate from their plan. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't start that engagement with program officers now. because it becomes a matter of when can they fit in funding for your capability that they're interested in. And they do a lot of incremental funding. Most of the contracts and grants are 3-year contracts and grants. A lot of them are at the $1 million level, some higher, some lower, but that's just what I've seen a lot of. Pay attention to what Navy leadership is discussing in terms of our future for the Navy and what the Navy would be interested in investing in. Check out the ONR research portfolio. And as an aside, I see a lot of autonomy contracts right now. And I suspect that will continue on for at least the next 5 years. That's my personal guess.
Okay. So these were my questions. So again, we'll move now to the Q&A from the crowd. Anyone that has questions, please feel free to post them. So the first question that we have is how best should firms working on the mental health and social reintegration of veterans engage with the ONR?
That sounds to me that's probably more something for the Veterans Administration than the Office of Naval Research. We do invest in things that are helping health-wise our current soldiers and sailors. In our research portfolio in Department 34, there's a lot of human performance type of requirements. I worked for a number of years with a fella that was working on hearing, the ears, because most veterans leave the service with a hearing deficiency. And he was interested in trying to solve that before it became a VA program, a problem, for example.
Okay, but either way, my suggestion is to just look out for, if there are any solicitations for either type of work, whether it's being for R&D or for other activities, and also try to reach out directly to the people responsible for that in the Navy. So I think that's the best way to do that. I would guess. Where would medical devices fall under? If I need to guess, is there a specific unit or a specific branch within either the Navy or the ONR that focuses on medical devices, or is it just depending on the BAA or the topics from the SBIR? Is there a specific person that runs that?
There's going to be more than one person, because how the Navy and DoD operates, and even the other executive agencies, it's very spread out. Yes, I would look at our broad agency announcement research topics, because they're not published in the long range BAA. You have to go to our website to see where we're interested. Again, probably falls under Department 34, human performance, in terms of what ONR is investing in. Certainly there is medical research, a lot of it that's being done outside of the Office of Naval Research. And I would suggest that you look on sam.gov, and I hope everyone is familiar with sam.gov, and doing some keyword research almost daily to make sure that you don't lose out on an opportunity because you didn't react quickly to it. My associate, Mr. Brandon Wilson, I think he's on, I asked him to actually make sure that I'm learning about every ONR opportunity that is released through looking at sam.gov every day, so that if we see something, we can notify the folks on our small business list that there is a new activity or some market research that's going out there that might be of interest to them.
One of our attendees asks, I have a large tech B2B event in Miami. I lead the government innovation programming. How do I get Naval X engaged to meet small tech businesses and help contracting? Naval X or
It's-
ONR.
Okay. So Naval X has some folks out by region. If you send me an email, I can certainly research who that might be for Naval X in terms of what they're doing. For Naval X, I would also look for what are their requirements that they may be putting out in your area, because you also want to make sure that they have funding available. When I've spoken with small businesses, the worst things is for the government to be utilizing the small business but not paying for the services. So I would, just be careful that everything is being funded in terms of a Naval X RFP, unless it's clearly marked as market research. I would also talk with the your Floridian Apex accelerators to make sure that they're there at your event, or that they're there to help support you with what the Navy is doing and the other DoD activities, whether it might be Air Force, it might be Army. They're watching for what all the organizations are interested in procuring.
This is a question that is specific about certain technology, so I don't know if this is something that is under your capability of answering it, but what are the main applications of solar or photovoltaic in Navy? Would high efficiency solar panels be of interest?
I don't know. Think about the role of the Navy. What are we doing? How do we fight wars? We're on ships, right? And the Marines, they're attacking, right? Or defending. So right now, I know our interest is in energy, but I see a lot of interest in batteries. Certainly, if it's a naval plant, a warfare center, where there are facilities involved, they may be interested more in the solar aspects, but I don't think you're going to be able to put solar on a ship, and we're the Navy, right? I think, and we also have to be careful that the capabilities that we're interested in are available 24/7. We can't, we have to fight wars in the dark under bad conditions. So when you're thinking about where to go to in terms of your technology that you're working on, think about who your users are and where that might fit within our executive departments.
But does the Navy, could it be relevant for bases? For, if you want net zero and reduce carbon footprint, is that something that Navy is putting an effort in, like the Army and the Air Force, for example?
I don't know to what extent.
Okay.
I do know that Naval Research Laboratory, that their facilities are very old.
Mhm.
And in the next 10 years, they'll be working on supposedly on a lot of construction projects to try and modernize. So that might be an area to explore. I would also check with NAVFAC, the Navy Facilities Command, who is responsible for facilities. What sort of requirements are they getting? Do they include solar?
Could you talk more about Code 35 and the small business dimensions?
What, for Code 35?
Yeah, since a lot of that work is with primes, the small businesses end up partnering with primes to do that work at the proposal stage or get looped in with the prime's proposal work.
Okay, so that's just one of the 5 departments, but that's the department that is mostly aligned with NAVAIR, Naval Air Systems Command, who is purchasing, airframes and engines and missiles. So that's why there's a tendency to use larger businesses in terms of some integration before requirement is then sent to a larger systems command. They still do some awards with small businesses. It just depends on what you have and how it fits within the research portfolio. For all of our departments, what's most important is seeing what does the department say they have a need for in terms of that research portfolio, and then how do you as a small business fit into the requirements that they've spelled out. And if you're not going to be priming, I'm looking at the requirement for all these other than small businesses to have a subcontracting plan within their contract. And if they are utilizing small business for the things that they plan on subcontracting for. They're not going to ask me to recommend small businesses to them. I would no longer be impartial, but I'm looking to see who have they met up with. There is nothing that stops a small business from making its own relationships with larger businesses. And one of your selling points may be that, gosh, you may be working on some ONR requirements. They're going to require a subcontracting plan. Here's how I can help be a partner to you.
Okay.
Look at what the government interest is, and also look at how we're utilizing things and what the large businesses want to do. There are a lot of large businesses that say they're out there to mentor and partner with small businesses.
How can companies or people access the information of the program officers? Where are they published? Their information is published, if it's published anywhere.
So the program office, they're publishing their requirements. And that's on our website, their requirements. Then they're getting results of research, right? And the results of research are being turned into DoD libraries. There are repositories out there, either if you're working on a grant or you're working on a contract, where the usefulness of that information is, yes, we want to share it, but we also have to be careful about the classification of the information, because we don't want to share information with our enemies.
Okay. There's a bunch of questions. There are a bunch of questions asking about specific technologies or sectors. So, and I think I'll skip them because all of them are about, again, quantum or AI or different types of technologies, where I think the best answer is to search for the relevant grant opportunities or contracting opportunities, because everything could be relevant here. So I think one of the interesting questions here are, in the context of autonomous ocean data or monitoring, what is the benefit in working with ONR versus other government organizations offering funding opportunities like NOAA, NASA, or DOE?
I say do business with us all.
Mm-hmm.
Decide where you think there are funding opportunities that you as a business can make money off of. Because as much as I like to wave the American flag, companies are in business to make a profit. And all of the government, a government contract, you're not going to get rich off of government contracts, but you will have stability in terms of, yes, we pay our bills. And if you have opportunities with multiple agencies, I would go for it. You can certainly submit proposals for more than one agency. And some of the agencies also have, relationships. Within our Department 32, we have the NOP program, which is the, I guess it's National Oceanographic Partnership Program, where we work a lot with NSF in terms of funding requirements that have to do with the ocean. And remember, most of the Earth is the ocean. Land is just a small percentage. So there's a lot of work out there. If you are interested in providing or even a capability mapping the ocean, Still, a lot of the ocean is unmapped. So again, there are a lot of opportunities out there. It's about matching up your specific capabilities to agencies that are interested in funding those capabilities. If you have by the way, if you have a lot of questions, Aaron, about specific technologies, please don't hesitate for either for you or for the companies to reach out to me, and I can try and help go through our research portfolio to find the right technology match for them. I've been doing that for a few years now. I think I've probably gotten pretty good at it. And also, if any companies want to be on our small business distribution list, they should contact me and we'll put them on there.
Okay. That's great. I'm definitely that I will use that. I think maybe the last question. Can you explain more a little about the autonomy opportunities or solicitations? I think I missed. Sorry, autonomy contract.
Contract. Okay, can you repeat that one again?
Can you explain a little bit more about autonomy contracts that you mentioned and how to find them? This is one of the questions that were asked.
Okay, they're interested in some contracting opportunities.
I guess
other companies, other contracts that have already been let.
I don't know if the person that asked the question can elaborate, because I don't know. There's a question what is an autonomy contract? If that.
Oh, okay. Okay. So autonomy. So
yeah.
The Navy is very interested in having ships unmanned at this point. You know, instead of sending sailors into combat, can we send out a ship, a boat, an aircraft? Well, we do that with drones now, right? They're unmanned. We started with drones in the sky. Now we have drones in the ocean, and this is all about, you know, how do we do with a smaller Navy? Well, we have less repetition, we have less people. So where can robots take over and perhaps use some artificial intelligence to do things that humans are currently doing that we can do using technology?
Mm-hmm. Okay. I hope that answered the question. I'll give maybe one more.
Right. If it doesn't, again, they can always reach out to me at a different time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That one sales also. Okay. Again, any person that had a question that was specific about a program or a technology or use case, I more than encourage you to contact Ellen directly. We posted her email on the chat, so you can have that, and also in the presentation it was listed as well. So yes, I think with that, as I see no more questions coming in, I think we'll wrap this up. Ellen, I want to thank you for taking the time and answer my questions and the questions from the audience. Wait, there's another question that just popped up. Let's see. Okay, that's a good question, actually. Does your agencies and other agencies work with foreign small businesses that could work with, would like to work with US government contracts? And I'll add to that, do you work or do you fund projects that are led or performed by non-US entities?
We do fund contracts with non-US. It doesn't matter whether they're a small business or not. I mean, my responsibility is to US small businesses, but the mission of ONR is to fund the best technology that's available. We also have ONRG, ONR Global, and their job is to search and to know what's going on internationally, and they also fund projects.
Mm-hmm. So in short, yes.
Yes, it's a yes. But what's important is what your interests are in terms of capability and directing it to the right place.
Yeah. basically SBIRs are not open for foreign, for non-US, but
Correct.
ONR could support projects from non-US entities.
Right, right.
Okay.
And again, we've spent $200 million on SBIR. We spent another 1.4 billion on non-SBIR contracts this year.
Yeah.
So, don't stop at SBIR. It's a great source. But there's more than that.
Okay. So again, thank you very much for your time, Ellen, and for your patience with the questions and for your answers. I think this was very valuable, at least for me, hopefully for everyone else. Thank you very much again. And anyone that has any question, you feel free to contact Ellen or us, and we'll be more than happy to help you. And again, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back. Maybe we can do it again next year.
Yeah, we'll be
And
more than
also,
happy.
if, in terms of my slides, if you have some thoughts about how to focus that differently, let me know, because I'm just guessing, based on my other conversations with small businesses in terms of where the interests lay. So thank you. Enjoyed this session. I like when you put me on the spot.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.